Nepal Sports Summit at the top of the world.
Nepal's economy, how does it help the Nepal's youth, how does it promote employment, new entrepreneurship for Nepal, that's important. Just 2 or 3 very quick examples I'd like to set as we move forward. Ramayan ko sandarbhama hamle sabai, we know what it is, right? It's such an important story that it touches every Hindu all over the world, not just Nepal. Sita lai, Ram, how did Ram win over Sita? It was a bow and arrow, right? And we believe that took place in Janakpur. Can you imagine if Janakpur was a center stage for archery sports and the kind of international diplomacy we could increase from that? Because that was the venue of where the love story, the story of Ramayana started. Without Sita, there was no Ramayana, right? And that happened here. Janakpur is in Nepal. You don't need to go to Singapore, Dubai, to New York. It's here. Right? So probably what is it that you have that you can convert into a strategy? We looked at other sports. Kali Gandaki is the world's deepest gorge. Mountain biking is superbly popular. Mountain biking ko Paryatanma, probably it's one of the longest stays in Nepal, 7 to 10 days. We made a detailed study of how you could actually cycle in the deepest gorge of the world and enjoy that with 7 to 10 different cultures. That would have promoted Nepal's sports and to move forward. Just one more, I'll give you an example. Karnali is the world's 5th best rafting rivers in the world. Karnali. It's one of the most pristine rivers that we have in this country at the moment. What we were trying to do was to have the International Rafting World Cup in Nepal. Can you imagine if we had succeeded? That would have changed Nepal's image internationally. त भन्न खोजेको एउटा के हो भने हामीले पनि केही कुरा गर्दाखेरि बिना strategy हामी सबै गर्छौं भन्दाखेरि that's not going to get you very far. It'll get you somewhere, but not very far. So, what does Nepal have, and how can we move forward? I'll turn to my wonderful panelists. I mean, you all know them. I'm not going to introduce them. You know them very well. And I'll start with Rajesh. What she said and the way she introduces was correct. And you and I think we've been through Nepal's situation long enough, and we can be frank with this audience, is to expect from the government to do this for you, I think we'll get nowhere. To expect something from the government to take a lead on something of diplomacy, although it's the government's role, probably that's asking for too much. So my question to you would be, as a citizen of Nepal, how could we contribute to the sports in terms of diplomacy and make Nepal a center to make the world understand the importance of Nepal?
Good evening, everyone. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here amongst you all. It's a slightly different program and platform than the one I usually attend, but nevertheless, the field that I represent is also an integral element of soft diplomacy. By that I mean culture, music, art, cinema, all this work as a soft diplomacy, and helps not just connect 2 countries or more than 2 countries on a governmental level or so-called hardcore diplomacy level, but on people-to-people connection and people-to-people relationship. And as far as I'm concerned, the soft diplomacy is the one that touches the people's heart directly, whereas the hardcore politics and hardcore diplomacy could be tackled intellectually and tackled with all kind of strategies. But the soft diplomacy is a kind of a diplomacy which sort of like penetrates people's heart and emotions directly. And what penetrates the heart and the emotion are much more deeply rooted than anything else. So it's an absolutely pleasure to be here. Sports diplomacy भनेको पनि एउटा integral part of soft diplomacy हो. Matter of fact, I would say it's a very prominent part, because when hardcore diplomacy fails, when hardcore politics fails, soft diplomacy always comes into play. And we've seen several examples in the histories as well. Like if you go back to First World War, during First World War, there was actually, in the middle of a combat, the Germans and the English had a truce just to play a football match, whereas they were combating in the battlefield. Just to have a friendly football match, they called it a truce. So that's how important they considered sports in connecting two different nations altogether. And also, if you go back to the so-called Cold Wars, you will see like the Russians and the Americans were sort of on in the two end of the stratum in terms of hardcore politics and hardcore diplomacy. But nevertheless, they were joined in hips by sports. And there are several examples of it. There was a time, I don't know if you guys remember, but I do have a slight memory of that, when it was called ice hockey diplomacy, when the Canadians were playing with the Russians at the hardcore Soviet era, if you can remember. And that worked wonders in terms of the relationship especially between people-to-people relationship between the West and the so-called East Europeans. And at the same time, there was, I think, ping-pong diplomacy in China. And ping-pong diplomacy in China during the time when China was a very closed country, unlike today. And the ping-pong diplomacy actually paved the way for Nixon's visit to China. And that's how important the sports played in connecting two people who were at loggerheads otherwise. And I can give you so many more examples, like with cricket, especially when Imran Khan was playing in Pakistan. He was the darling of the Indian media. Whereas the Pakistan and India were not seeing each other eye to eye during that time. But the cricket brought the two nations together. And Imran Khan became a sensational in India in spite of the relationship the turbulent relationship Pakistan and India was going through. So there are so many examples where sports diplomacy comes into play, and especially in small countries like Nepal. नेपाल जस्तो देशहरू जो चाहिँ असाध्यै सानो र भनौँ न अन्य अरू कोणबाट चाहिँ नि त्यति प्रभाव अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय क्षेत्रमा त्यति प्रभाव पार्न नसक्ने राष्ट्रको नाताले त यो सफ्ट डिप्लोमेसीलाई त अझ हामीले emphasize गर्नुपर्छ. Whether it be culture, whether it be music, whether it be arts, and now we're talking about sports, of course, with sports. These are the elements that we should be more focusing on, because otherwise, as in foreign relationship, what are the three elements that comes into a prominent play? The three elements that comes into a prominent play is power, interest, and value. Every country operates on those three bases. They have power, they have their interest, they have their values. The stronger countries, power comes into the dominance. Whenever they want to meet their interest and serve their value, if nothing works, they use their power. Whether it be a muscle power, and by muscle power I'm using a euphemism, it's the machinery and the hardcore military actions, and economy. That's the prominent card that they play in order to serve their interest and to fulfill their values. But in a country like Nepal, we also do have interest, we have values of this nation, but what do we lack? We lack in power. We don't have a power card. So how do we serve our interest and values of this nation? It's through diplomacy, by having a better image through our soft diplomacy, whether it be in sports, whether it be in culture, whether it be in cinema, arts, music, tourism, all that kind of, if we can build that value up, we can preserve our interest and our national values. So I cannot at all undermine the value of soft diplomacy, and in this case, sports plays a prominent part, I think, in bringing people together, whether it be nationally or internationally. Where politics and hardcore diplomacy wobbles, soft diplomacy comes into play.
Absolutely, I think, and it's true, because I think this is what the world needs. Deepak, let me sort of jump into you, because I've worked with you, I've had the pleasure, you've got a vision, you know where Nepal needs to go, you know where Nepal needs to improve in terms of getting tourism at its best, right? How do you see sports? I mean, could Nepal be a hub? You look at the Olympics right now. I mean, you look at the World Cup, right? The flights to US is doubled in the last couple of months. You don't get hotels. The hotels are like running at about $400 to $600, which normally sold at about $150. Singapore, every time you have the F1, the hotels and the restaurants are booming with business. And they in fact have to restrict people from coming in. Do you see Nepal creating such kind of events where through sports diplomacy Nepal becomes a center for that, and we also encourage the tourism industry to improve? Yeah?
Thank you.
Mike Babu. That's not the best mic. Probably you want to take the other mic. That's not good too.
Thank you, Sarasdai, especially invited dignitaries and eminent panelists here. I think we are talking about the sports as a soft diplomacy here. From tourism perspective, we believe that without a strong national branding, tourism brand itself in isolation cannot work well, cannot appeal well. And the strong national branding can be built only through, I think there are multiple other events as well, but sports and music events are probably the most powerful one. Just to give one example here, in 2024, we had one very interesting match with South Africa. That match was a cricket match between South Africa and Nepal. Before that, I think the 1.5 billion population of South Africa and nearly 6 million population of South Africa was totally unknown about Nepal. Immediately after that match, almost everybody knew what Nepal is. So that kind of powerful appeal, sports segments can do that. Evolution-wise, I think Nepal's evolution in sports category is not new, but in between we could not develop much. In 1956 itself, when we made our first periodic plan, at that time also we mentioned about development of sports sector to enhance Nepal's image. At that time, I think the Sardar Stadium was built. At that time, nearly 25, 30 years ago, when we built International Convention Center, at the same time we modernized our stadium. Probably at the same time we also built one cricket stadium in Kirtipur. And at the same time, we had established NICA, Nepal Incentive and Corporate Association. Yogenda is here, I think he was here in the afternoon. So at that time, with very good intention to breeze the effort of public sector and private sector, and to integrate that effort with tourism sector, that association was established. But because of some crisis in between, that could not continue. Regarding talking about the tourism and soft diplomacy, I think there are so many events that can be positioned and curated. As you mentioned, when you were national coordinator for Visit Nepal 2020, the ice skating. That event was really a very well-clicked event, because as a country, we cannot spend big amount of money to promote Nepal in international media, but through media gaining with these kind of events that we can do. Similarly, Nepal should be developed as a multiple niche segments in different categories of tourism. For example, in this March, we are going to support one event which is angling in Seti River. From Afghanistan to Yunnan, I heard that there were nearly 100 rivers where you could find golden mahseer. And now that Seti River is identified as one of the best river for golden mahseer. And that angling event is being organized in Seti River, where the visitors from Nordic countries and European countries, they will come and they will compete, catch and release of golden mahseer. So these kind of events will certainly help us to promote Nepal in a unique way. And that will also help to position Nepal as a beautiful tourist destination.
Fantastic. I think that's the way to go. Amir, I've known him for a very, very long time. Amir सँगै मेरो सम्बन्ध जोडिएको जब उहाँ चाहिँ क्रिकेट खेल्नुहुन्थ्यो र उहाँको एउटा सपना के थियो भने नेपालको क्रिकेटलाई कसरी अगाडि बढाउनु भन्ने उहाँको एउटा सपनै थियो. Rajesh talked about the ping pong diplomacy, he talked about the ice skating diplomacy. You know, what surprises me quite a bit is some of the world's best cricket teams in the world is in South Asia. You know? India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. But what I'm surprised is they're all playing in Dubai or they're playing in Qatar and not Nepal. Is there anything you can do with this?
I was just speaking to DS Bhai earlier during the lunchtime that why can't we be meeting two IPL teams and convince them to play the afternoon matches in Kathmandu in that hot summer rather playing in India or Calcutta or Mumbai. And that could be the best way to move forward in getting the mass tourism in Nepal, catering all our industries right from hospitality to transport to local logistics and everything. And that's a big dream that we aim for. Nepal not only being a good sporting country in terms of having a good cricket team or a good Olympics team or a good martial art team, but also Nepal or Kathmandu as a good venue for a lot of bigger sports and the serious sports I'm talking about. Blessing in disguise that Nepal actually has a good diplomacy skills with most of the countries, and I would say almost all the countries now. And we are just in the hub of the cricketing territory, which is of India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Kathmandu could be well suited as a neutral venue that we have been dreaming since many years now. If you know Sharjah, a lot of people would put Sharjah synonym to cricket only, but a lot of people still wouldn't know during 20 years back that it was a city existed in the UAE, but Sharjah just meant cricket. And that was a big tool that the promoters of Sharjah cricket, they actually made this as a neutral venue. For some reason, late 90s, it got vanished as a neutral venue. Nepal enjoys such a good relationship with all our neighboring countries, with all the cricketing giants countries, if you see. And with the current situation, the turmoil of Pakistan not going into the World Cup, it is hurting the Indian economy in terms of the revenues from the broadcasters, mainly with the ICC. Of course, there have been efforts that's going on to get them in place to play this World Cup, but actually there's a big issue about the venue. You know, Pakistan doesn't want to travel India, India doesn't want to travel Pakistan, the Dubai factor is getting too much for them, and they're still looking for a neutral venue. Unfortunately, still Sri Lanka doesn't have much fan base. If you see the recent past, the cricket in Nepal has really grown well in terms of fan base as well. Imagine if you can actually pull those matches, pull those diplomatic, all those channels, and make a collective effort to bring those matches here in Nepal. It could be really massive. But the low-hanging fruit would still be the IPL afternoon matches, which every team has to play 2 matches in their scheduled calendar, and we should actually be able to pull them to Kathmandu. For example, even from Kathmandu to Mumbai takes, from Delhi to Mumbai takes 3 hours flight, But from Delhi to Kathmandu takes 1 hour, 10 minutes flight, and we have got almost 8 flights a day. From Mumbai, we have got 2 flights a day. From Bangalore, we have flights. From Calcutta, we have flights. And these are big IPL cities, the franchise cities that we have. And for them also to look at the newer fan base, to discover a new fan base in a country like Nepal, where cricket is really, really going massive. So we should actually be aiming for such impactful events to cater at a master level. Going on the sports diplomacy, I would actually go back that in 1981, the Chinese government, during the coronation time, they actually made our Dashrath Stadium. And they still have that little plaque on that, just on the entry of that stadium. And that was a tribute to the coronation time that time. And it really, really worked out very well with us, that we got a new stadium, full-fledged football plus athletics, and followed by the German cooperation for some athletics program, because Lufthansa Airlines used to operate that time, I think 80s, 90s, Niresh Dai would actually tell us. So there was a history that these bigger countries, China, Germany, they were investing in Nepal in the infrastructure. Unfortunately, in the recent time, nobody has exploited our relationship with our neighbors. I was just talking to Qatari ambassador a few weeks back that Qatar, I mean, yes, of course, we had a lot of contribution to make those football stadiums, but hardly people know that Qatar has got the best rehab sports center in the world called Aspire, where even Cristiano Ronaldo or maybe Federer goes for the rehab program. And there could also be a diplomacy that we could actually send our top athletes, to Qatar for their services. I mean, it's all depends how we actually maneuver our relationship with different countries. So sports diplomacy is actually a very, very big tool. And Nepal is very, very well placed, very well suited. And we enjoy a very, very good relationship with all the countries. And sports diplomacy is something that we should look into deeply.
Yeah, but you're saying you प्रश्न चाहिँ के हो भने हाम्रो यो इन्डिया र पाकिस्तानको सम्बन्ध राम्रै थियो केही महिनालाई इमरान खान चाहिँ उहाँ चाहिँ पाकिस्तानको प्रधानमन्त्री हुनुहुन्थ्यो इन्डियामा there was very receptive sort of a government that wanted to improve relationship with Pakistan. म चाहिँ सार्क चेम्बरको अध्यक्ष थिएँ र यो प्रपोजल एक्चुअली हामीले हालेको पनि थिएँ and they really welcomed it. The Pakistan government welcomed it. India government welcomed it. तर हाम्रो अप्ठ्यारो के भने नेपाल फर्किँदाखेरि हाम्रो सरकारले जुन इन्ट्रेस्टले लिनु पर्ने थियो त्यो लिन सकेन and it just flopped. And after that, the problems happened and we couldn't move forward. त भन्दाखेरि एउटा चाहिँ यो के हो भने there are countries that look at Nepal very kindly. You had 2 speakers just before us, they were here for the first time in Nepal. They love Nepal. They want to come back to Nepal. I mean, if you talk to a lot of people, they say the people of Nepal are so good that we just want to come back again and again and again. The willingness of people, the love and affection for Nepal is there. But I think then it's again, how do we as Nepali take advantage of that and move this one step further? So Deepak, let me ask you, I mean, because you're best sort of situated, you're the chairman, the CEO of Nepal Tourism Board. You have all the international relationship that you need to promote tourism. Beside culture and Everest that we have, there was a wonderful presentation made by Nikita, I think, on Trail Nepal, which was really superbly good. Is there a way we can make some of these sports a permanent sports, that it really becomes a home-based sports? Like, I know Vikram Pandey, right? He's doing the Everest Marathon. I mean, why can't Everest Marathon be the marathon that everybody wants to aspire instead of your London Marathon or anything else? Because Everest is Everest, right? I mean, is there a way that Tourism Board would look at 1 or 2 sports and really make it a hub so that it becomes a yearly event? And it's a calendar that everybody sort of will stick to it. Not to say that we want to have it next year, but you really want to put that in your calendar for the next 10 years. Is there something that you could plan on this?
Currently, we are looking for trail running as one of the most feasible and which is scalable. event in Nepal, and we are trying to associate with the various stakeholders there, and especially the region like Karnali can be one of the the signature product or event in Karnali region for trail running itself. And marathon is second. The marathon is becoming very, very popular now. And third is, as I mentioned earlier, angling. Angling is because that Seti and Karnali and Mahakali, these three rivers are the best one in the world for angling event. So we are looking for these kind of events to promote.
Let me just quickly follow up, because I'm lucky that I have 3 panelists and not 4, so I just get one more question. How would you see the private sector get involved with you? Would you like the private sector to join you in this effort?
I think what, if you look at last 2 decades or 3 decades, or before that, largely even within tourism sector, we confine within the core sector of tourism only. That means the hotel, travel, and airlines. Even I think the sports sector, they are also confined in only the sports stakeholders there. We need to expand our engagement, the cross-sector engagement more. That will certainly bring more result, and which also help to promote soft diplomacy in a larger way.
Okay, yeah. Raj, I come back to you again. Now, again, you're such a popular guy. Everybody knows you, not just in Nepal, but around the world. And I agree that people like you really promote Nepal. We have formal ambassadors of Nepal, but they're recalled so many times so quickly that they really don't even complete their tenure, and it's difficult for them to try and come up with a vision. But people like us, I think we're all ambassadors for our country, right? And since you travel so much, the Nepalese diaspora is quite big, and it's growing very fast. And in many countries, it's playing a very important role. In Australia, it affects the elections up there, where the Nepalese vote. Did you know that? I didn't know that. I mean, the campaign managers who actually just look out for the Nepalese vote to win elections. In India, I didn't know that this was there, but Nepalese speaking diaspora is so big that in the national election, they look at these people. Now, I'm not saying use them for politics. I'm talking about use them in sports. How could we try and work with our diaspora abroad to try and increase the diplomacy for us and really help Nepal also in a different way?
First of all, I would like to say that Nepal as a country is very uniquely positioned in the universal platform. Uniquely in a sense that after all, if we look at the international politics and the international diplomacy, we do see that every country has its own modus operandi. And the reason being is नेपालीमा भन्छ नि हरेक राष्ट्रको आफ्नो हैसियत हुन्छ. That is the bitter truth. Everybody loves their country, everybody thinks their country is the best, but when it comes to the truth, and the truth is always bitter, like I said, every country has its own capacity, own caliber, and own standing in the world arena. नेपाल जस्तो कन्ट्री को मामलामा कस्तो हुन्छ भने हाम्रो अघि मैले भने नि हाम्रो इन्ट्रेस्ट पनि छ, हाम्रो भ्याल्युज पनि छ, तर त्यो मिट गर्नको लागि हामीले हार्डकोर पोलिटिक्स मात्रै प्रयोग गरेर हामीले गर्न सक्दैनौँ. किनकि बेसिकली if you want to call spade a spade, our politics is not effective enough in the international arena. अन्य अरू strategy that I'm using गर्न सक्दैनौँ. I mean, we can't even think about talking about the power of the country in terms of military and other things. त्यस कारण हामीले वर्कआउट गर्ने भनेकै तपाईको चाहे नेपाली internationally होस् अहिले in this case, or international arena मा भनेको हामीले emphasize गर्ने नै यही soft diplomacy मा हो. To project our image of the country and the citizens of the country. It's only through soft diplomacy we can uplift ourselves. And when I'm saying soft diplomacy, I of course say sports, I say art, I say culture, I say people's attitude, aptitude, the way Nepali people carry themselves, the way Nepali people treat other people internationally, all that comes into play of soft diplomacy. And in a country which is the size of ours and the capacity of ours, this is what should be in the forefront. Should be the dominant factor in the forefront. And I would go to the extent of saying that Nepali politics actually should revolve around soft diplomacy and not the other way around. It's not the soft diplomacy revolving around the country politics. Because like I said, every country is in a unique situation, and ours is a unique situation. And we got to operate and function according to our own capacity and capabilities and the things that we have in hand. So I would go to the extent of saying that the Nepali politics should actually revolve around the soft diplomacy of Nepal, that we can cater to the world at the international stage, whether it be through tourism, whether it be through culture, art, cinema even, sports for that matter. And so if that happens, then the country puts more energy into these sectors, which is currently probably lacking by great deal. So if the country actually puts their bet on which takes the country forward internationally, that image of Nepal internationally. So the country and the state and the politics of the country, I think, should put in more energy, more focus, more money and resources in these sectors of Nepal, the sports, arts, cinema, all that, tourism as well. And when it comes to sports, we see that it's several things are lacking. What is not actually lacking in sports in Nepal is actually the resilience and the endurance of the players themselves. We have that component in the Nepali people. We have the components of endurance, the passion, the energy, and the attitude of wanting to excel. But all that components that is naturally inbred, which is innate in the characters of the Nepali people, should be enhanced by the state and the country. And in that sector, we're lacking enormously. So we got to uplift our players' morality, we got to uplift our players' position, enhance and refine and fine-tune their capacities and capabilities, which sadly is under the shadow. And some of the times we see that when Nepal actually excels internationally, there's a lot of hue and cry. It's all right, we got to celebrate the winners, that's fine. But the most important thing is we got to focus more on people who fail and fall. That's where the energy should be put on as well. How to pick them up, how to re-energize them, how to get them into shape, back into the shape again. The focus should also be there. Not just shining spotlight on the people who come with a winning position from an international arena. The focus should never be diverted from people who are actually falling and failing. The state apparatus and the various institution apparatus should be focused and put their energy on how to uplift all of them. And like I said, the innate ingredients is already there to turn a person into an excellent sports person, whether it be a man or a woman. The endurance is there, the energy is there, the passion is there, the will to compete and to come as a winner is there. But of course, as we all know, that is not sufficient. The other factor is how to hone all that capacity that we have naturally, how to enhance that, how to fine-tune that. And that's where the government and the institutions' role come into play, which unfortunately is very lacking. I think this is what we should emphasize on as a country. I would again repeat that a country like Nepal, with its size and capacity, and whether it be socially, economically, or politically in the international arena, It should emphasize on soft diplomacy, and the politics of the country should actually be revolving around the soft diplomacy and not the other way around.
I agree with that. Soft diplomacy is what we need. यो भन्दै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मलाई एउटा याद आयो यो कटारमा वर्ल्ड कप हुँदाखेरि do you remember there was such a lot of news about labor standards, the way the Nepalese laborers were being treated? Media was covering as how Nepalese workers shouldn't go to Qatar and work because a lot of that infrastructure was done by Nepalese people, right? र त्यो हुँदा हुँदा पनि वर्ल्ड कप भयो. But I still remember, त्यो बेलाको Qatari ambassador say I probably had about 2 or 3 meetings. र साथसाथै हाम्रो मन्त्रीज्यूहरूसँग पनि मिटिङ भएको थियो. र उहाँले एउटा नेपाललाई चाहिँ because Nepal helped them in that very, very difficult time, they had some of these stadiums that they wanted to donate to different countries. And Nepal was on the priority list. नेपाललाई पनि एउटा चाहिँ stadium हामी दिन्छौँ भन्ने उहाँहरूको चाहना थियो. This was the political thing that they had. They wanted to give. And I still remember, right? त्यो ambassador जसले दिन्छु भन्ने मान्छे दिन रात मन्त्रालयमा उहाँ चाहिँ he went to different places. He was thrown from one mantralaya to the other saying that we can't decide, you got to get somebody else भन्दा भन्दा आखिरमा त्यो stadium जुन चाहिँ नेपाललाई दिन्छु भनेको थियो never came to Nepal. Which is really sad. You can't even build it. And here you're getting a world-class stadium and you can't even accept it. And please don't mind me saying this, I'm vocal on this. If you expect the government to do things for you, we're not going to get very far, right? That's a reality. So my question is to you. I mean, you're passionate about cricket, you keep talking about cricket, you want to do a lot of stuff. If you don't have a venue, how do you even have the matches here, right? So in other words, Gandagi Pradesh, they say, we are the tourism state, province, and probably Pokhara is also planning to have a stadium, right? अब नेपालको एयरपोर्ट अहिले 3टा बनेको छ, 3टामा 2टा चल्दैन हैन? अब अर्को एउटा बनाउने भन्छ त्यो पनि चल्दैन. त्यसै गरी स्टेडियम हरेक ठाउँमा खोलिरहेछ, एउटा पनि चल्न सकिरहेको छैन. In all honesty, I'm saying, can there be one stadium of world-class stadium where the private sector can take a lead, maybe in private-public partnership and move forward? Because if you don't have a venue, you can't have an event.
See, we actually don't need a world-class stadium. In the beginning season, he mentioned in the first panel, I guess, we need a workable plan actually, more than the world-class stadium. See, Nepal can never compete with the infrastructure of stadiums, what probably now India has it, what now Dubai has it, or what the UK has it. But within our topography and within the natural beauty that is surrounded around the stadium is absolutely amazing. And the best thing is, if you see the soft infrastructure is the climate, and that can never be replaced. We do have now, if you see the cricket stadium at the TU Stadium, it is probably one of the most picturesque cricket stadiums in the world, if not the world class, the most picturesque. And there's been a lot of talk from the bigger media outlets around the globe, how they actually captured the sensation, the mountains around, the greenery around. It is next to impossible to have stadiums in Dubai like that. So if not the world class, we do have a very picturesque infrastructures. We just need to use our resources in the best possible way. Diplomacy is one thing that probably I was talking to. I mean, there was no foreign minister, but there should be a department of sports diplomacy within our foreign ministry as well. Considering that Nepal actually has a very, very good relationship. I mean, now there are some, in the British Embassy, I actually met an officer called Prosperity Officer. I mean, it sounds very funny, but actually it's very workable. Considering how UK exploits their prosperous way of getting their work done throughout the globe, right? So why can't we also have a sports diplomacy department in our foreign ministry going forward with the new elections and the new government? And infrastructure-wise, I mean, in cricket-wise at least, we are well covered with one venue in Kathmandu that's good enough. We have got all the basics right. All we have to do is get lobbying with the bigger teams, with the bigger leagues, and get them to come and play here.
Thank you. I think, like I said again, is without a venue, events are difficult. हिजोको दिनमा हामीले चाहिँ 5 मेगावाटको पावर गर्थ्यौं भने आज हामीले 300 मेगावाटको पावर हामीले गर्न सक्छौं भन्ने हामी नेपालको अहिले क्षमता छ कि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि let us think beyond. We're not poor. We need to just be rich in mind and to say that we can. And if we say we can, probably we will. Right? And that's the attitude. So I know Alvin looked at me. He's looked at me about 3 times already, because before I started, he said you have 45 minutes and that's it. So I'm not going to go wrap around. I don't need to summarize everything that's been said. You all understand this. But I do have something for you, Bhaskar, and for Amir, what you're starting. You अस्ति मात्र चाहिँ आर्मीका केही साथीहरुसँग you're saying यस्तै रक्सी खाएको बेलामा I think the best discussion happens when you're drinking actually. And we started talking and we said, how can Nepal put itself in a map? You know? We're a small country, yes. We have Everest, yes. But what is there that we can do something that really makes people feel good about themselves? You know? And then everybody said sports. So actually an idea came up. It came up as a drink, but I think now it's revolving into something more serious. The problem with Nepal is we want result tomorrow. I think the energy that the Zenzis have is tremendous. You've shown to the people. But you also need the patience, right? Because I think that's very important and we need to work together on that part. So, can we pledge, Bhaskar, you know, Amir, since you guys are leading this, sports fraternity people who are here, in the next 10 years, we'll at least get 1 silver medal in the Olympics. 1. Can we try that? Not in the next 5 years, next 10 years. And that's how things have worked actually. The problem with Nepal is you have a prime minister for 2 months and he wants to complete, you know, he wants to make Nepal into Singapore in 2 months. It doesn't happen, no? But if we are realistic in our approach and say in the next 10 years, we will have 1 silver medal in the Olympics, and we all commit to that. You can take a lead on that, we'll follow you. Right? So I really want to thank the panelists. They've been fantastic. And really, thank you for being here from morning, because Bhaskar told me to come for 2 hours. I've been here for 5. That's a record. So thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.
And on behalf of the organizers, we take a moment to extend our deep felt gratitude to the entire panel. We are so grateful for the insights, thoughts, and perspectives that you have shared, and the great work that you bring along to this panel in itself is so exemplary and inspiring that we wish to reap from the great insights and the work that you've been doing. So here we present this token of appreciation to the Chair of CEO of Nepal Tourism Board, Mr. Deepak Raj Joshi, to Mr. Rajesh Hamal. Thank you so much for being here. To Mr. Suraj Vaidya for so excellently facilitating this very rich deliberation. May I request you to kindly step forward for a quick photo op. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. These 2 gentlemen do deserve a round of applause. They put in a lot of effort, thought, mind, and everything to bring this all together. So may I request all of you to kindly step forward a bit, please? धेरै धन्यवाद हामी सबैको तर्फबाट. So in diplomacy, it's all about positioning, and that is what they were talking about. To really position ourselves strong, I think we need to have a house in order, put things intact, in order and in synergy, and making us matter through sports is something that we see as a great potential and prospect for our nation. Thank you for this very wonderful session.
I did nothing. I just put a few videos together. So, you know, when you get invited to do the keynote, and especially the headline act, there are two things that can happen. Either everyone is tired and he walks out of the hall, or you really get apex crowd. I can see I'm like midway. I started off with these videos to basically give context to all the conversations we're having, sports and entertainment. And before I move on, I don't know, I must address this. Why me? Why am I here? Why unlisted? I'm not even a part of the schedule. My name doesn't appear. I'm not a part of the promotion campaign that they're running. Amir just called me recently, out of the blue. I've known him for a long time. My interest in Nepal is known. I've been trying for the longest time, and I'll come to that a bit later. When he called and he said, hey, I'm doing this in Kathmandu, I said, I'm on. Because any excuse to come to Nepal, the lovely blue skies, friends of mine who are here for the longest time. So I took that up, and then we tried to figure what is it that we're going to do. So listen, I haven't been a part of the entire day's program, and I'm sure, going by the last two panels that I saw, there must have been a lot of knowledge shared, a lot of views, a lot of wisdom. Let me give you a slightly more tangible version, because my business for 46 years has been sports and entertainment. So we've actually been doing it. I will repeat this later, but let me just tell you, 25, 30 years ago, I can't even remember, this was really a long time ago, we did the first international cricket match in Kathmandu. We got the Indian legends to come in and play the Nepal team. I think this was, and Amir was right. Even that time, I remember that this was the most beautiful cricket ground in the world. Mountains in the background, beautiful green turf, so you don't need plastic chairs to sit on. You could actually sit on green grass. And it was magical. And that's the time when we took this up seriously, and as some of our friends pointed out in the panel discussion too, it was the political instability that prevented us from raising the capital that we needed. Else, story would have been different. Let me go back. So when we think of sports, we basically think of recreation. By the way, listen, I don't need the note, but I've got the note just to make sure I don't miss anything that I want to share. Okay. So sports is time pass, leisure, something that we do after work or before school or after school. I grew up, my childhood was playing cricket. I lived in Bombay. And Bombay doesn't have infrastructure for a different reason. There's no space. Okay, so we played cricket in the streets. We played cricket in building corridors, in school corridors, and not only that, but table tennis was played on dining table. All you did was put a few books there, and there's a table tennis table. Sports quietly shaped into what I became: discipline, teamwork, resilience, ambition. Okay, sports keep youth engaged, reduces social evils, build healthier, more connected communities. I visited Colombia, I think about 2 years ago, and I was surprised to see that despite all the perceptions that Colombia carries, the narco story and whatever, the global supplier of the evil, but the sports infrastructure there was shocking. You had, football grounds, you had volleyball courts, you had basketball courts, everywhere, flooded, lit. Organizations like Lotus Sports for Good actually have used the sports to take away the evil from the society. So if you give good sports infrastructure, the youth will engage, and they'll have less time to do bad things on the road or anywhere else. Over the years in business, I have had the opportunity to engage with multiple sporting ecosystems: football, formula racing, cricket, IPL, boxing, tennis, badminton, athletics, everything. And that exposure really changed my perspective. Today, sports sits at an intersection of experience economy, culture, and technology. I will make a point here. The sports experiential economy, the real acceleration, the real potential emerges when it transits into entertainment. I just want to make a very small point. We've had Ranji Trophy games going on in India for the longest time. We have Kanga League. We have so many regional, national, interstate, intercity tournaments going on. But nobody used to go to those games. Nobody ever sponsored those games. But the moment it came in the new avatar of IPL, it had all the money, all the wisdom. Okay, so it's only when sports begins to entertain, the big money gets locked in. Let me tell you, the global sports market is about $500 billion worth. Global live entertainment market, which is concerts, music concerts, is about 535 billion. You can multiply by that by 160 to know how many Nepalese rupees. I just figured that. The global sports and live entertainment market, therefore, combined, which is what Nepal can easily target, is over $1 trillion. Multiply that 1,600 trillion Nepalese rupees. Okay. The APAC market is about 116 billion. APAC live entertainment market is about 43 billion. These are not small numbers. These are huge numbers. The sports and entertainment market across APAC, a region that we are part of, is about 160 billion. Just IPL alone is 1.5 billion in terms of revenues. And I'm not talking about impact on economy. I'm only talking about IPL revenues. When an event happens, somebody did mention earlier that you have hotels going up. You did, sir. The restaurants filled up. Taxis are making money. Retail, shopping, food, everything is booming. Now, all that combined is much bigger. So beyond cricket, IPL drives hotels, aviation, employment, franchise, media, year-round fan engagement. It created actually an entertainment economy. Now, Formula One, I show that for a reason. Formula One is one of the biggest money spinners worldwide. It generates about, every race generates approximately a billion to $1.5 billion. Singapore, there was a mention of Singapore earlier, about $2 billion US. Monaco, about $1.5 billion. Just one weekend is just 2 days. 365 days, out of that, only 2 days is $1.5 billion. Australia GP is about 190 million. Bahrain GP is about 500 million. Thailand, your neighbor, is $1.23 billion is planned investment, and about 500 billion is expected to be, about 500 million is expected to be the economic impact. They'll start in 2027. We are supporting Formula racing in India. We did a few races with Formula E in Hyderabad, Formula 4 in Hyderabad, Chennai, and now this month we're doing Goa and Bombay.
Nepal Sports Summit at the
Classic Techको 16th एनिभर्सरी अफर जतिमा चाहियो त्यतिमा पाइयो बजेट र प्याकेज तपाईकै रोजाइको अब इन्टरनेट टिभी र वाइफाई 6 राउटर पनि त्यतिमै पाइन्छ क्लासिक टेकको कुनै पनि प्लान खरिदमा हरेक हप्ता 3 जनालाई 3 महिना इन्टरनेट बोनस र मासिक 1 जनालाई रु 12000 को इन्टरनेट बोनस सम्पर्क 9801004477 क्लासिक टेक जतिमा चाहियो त्यतिमा पाइयो
अब यसरी सोचौं न नेपाल समाचार पत्र संवाहक सकारात्मक सोचको शिवम सिमेन्ट क्वालिटीको मामलामा नो कम्प्रोमाइज भन्दै शिर ठाडो पारिरहेका छौं सदा सर्वदा
नेपालको पहिलो र एकमात्र 60% बढी पकड शक्ति भएको सर्वोत्तम स्टिल
महत्त्वपूर्ण भवनहरूको निर्माणलाई बलियो आधार दिँदै आएको सर्वोत्तम सिमेन्ट
जगदम्बा अल्ट्रा प्रिमियम ओपीसी सिमेन्ट नेपालको अनुभवी ओपीसी सिमेन्ट
महत्त्वपूर्ण भवनहरूको निर्माणलाई बलियो आधार दिँदै आएको सर्वोत्तम सिमेन्ट
शिवम सिमेन्ट क्वालिटीको मामलामा नो कम्प्रोमाइज भन्दै शिर ठाडो पारिरहेका छौं सदा सर्वदा
Nepal Sports Summit at
and suddenly everybody notices Dubai. So it's an amazing branding exercise. So Nepal's natural advantage. Look, I told you when Amir called and said, "Come," the only thing that I visualized was blue sky, and I said, "Yeah, I'm coming." I didn't even know what for, but then I said, "I'll come." So listen, leverage it. It's beautiful. You are strategically very, very beautifully located, right in the middle of all the action, and neutral. So there was a mention. Why Sharjah? You can't even bear that weather. This is beautiful. So, you have an advantage. Please use it. we can surely attract sports, entertainment, art, and culture. Like I mentioned, Sunil, when was that game where you organized? You remember? 25 years? Very, very long ago. I still remember Kapil Dev was here with me, yes. So, this is what we need to do. So from participation to entertainment to economy, and weather is perfect, location is perfect. Somebody mentioned there are 7 flights a day from Delhi. There are 2 from Bombay, from Bangalore, from everywhere else. But listen, if you put together something that drives people, the flights will increase. It doesn't matter. You know, Goa has N number of flights right now, but in season time, they double, they triple. So that's hardly a constraint. All we need to do is to resolve, and I'm with you. Tell me what I can do to get the first silver medal in Olympics. Thank you very much for your patience. I know it's time to go home. Thank you.
And thank you so much from our side. Thank you so much, Mr. Harinder Singh. It was a pleasure and a privilege to have you and hear such enriching words. If I may invite you back on stage, there's a small formality which comes from the depth of our hearts. So here, our president from Avenues Network comes all along to extend our gratitude to our keynote speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear a round of applause. Tell you, we couldn't have ended this any better, because for us, the road from this moment, from Nepal Sports Summit 2026, the commencement of this kind of summit is certainly forward. And I think the facts, figures, the prospects that he put forth us is something to ponder on and contemplate on. Said that, अब पहिलो नेपालको खेलको क्षेत्रको विषयमा यसकै सेरोफेरोमा र एउटा भिजन अनि एउटा सपना बोकेर आएको नेपाल स्पोर्ट्स समिट 2026 अब हामी समापन गर्ने तर्फ हामी लम्कदैछौँ। तपाईहरू सबैलाई यो धैर्य, यो साथ, यो सद्भावको लागि धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। र आइम रिमाइन्डेड कि पर्सि सन्डेदेखि नेपाल खेल्दैछ, right? The World Cup is starting, and I'm sure the fans are like all eager to like slump on the sofas to watch the matches of their team, cheering for it. त्यही एउटा यो वर्ल्ड कपबाट पनि के थाहा हुन्छ भने we Nepalese are like so good, imperfect situationsमा पनि हामी heroes create गर्न सक्छौँ. That's the power, courage, and something so beautiful and unique about Nepalese. So this is a CTA that we want to make. Yes, there are imperfections. Yes, there are hurdles. But I think, you know, with so much positivism, with so much insights, expertise, experience, and the will to do, I'm sure if we create the right energy and create a course, we will reach the aspired destination at the soonest. So, अब समापन तर्फको क्षणमा तपाईहरुलाई डोर्याउँदै अब अन्त्यमा आयोजकको तर्फबाट भोट अफ थ्याङ्क्स धन्यवाद ज्ञापन गरिदिनु हुनको लागि म पडियममा आमन्त्रण गर्न चाहन्छु श्री अमीर अख्तर ज्यूलाई. All right, so he's already headed towards the stage, and we are so grateful. It's with a heart filled with lot of gratitude that he will be taking on the stage to extend our vote of thanks. Mr. Akhtar. The list looks very long.
I wanted Bhaskar Dai, to give this vote of thanks, but he swayed away. Sorry, many thanks everyone, but first of all, Bhaskar Dai and his family, Samriddhi, when we proposed for the Sports Summit, they were actually into this without a second thought. We all felt that this was something that was required long time back. Someone asked us that how did this idea came. I said it's more of a responsibility than actually the idea of Nepal Sports Summit. We have been in the sports industry for so long, and this was just at the right time going forward that we're going to have a new government very soon. Yeah, many thanks to all the speakers, the panelists, the moderators, the guests all the way from Delhi, Mumbai, flew in within short time. Prabhat Dai, but yeah, I mean, Sangam, Snevi, Alvin, you know, they all made it happen. Like I said, within short time, it was very, very nice. Someone like Suraj Dai, who actually took the responsibility as a moderator. I'm sure this was your first time. Many, many thanks, everyone, all the guests here, the journalist friends, the medias, everyone here to make this happen. Thank you, the sponsors, Red Bull, the Solti Hotel, Nepal Tourism Board as a co-host. So they all believe this summit should actually be doing well for the country. It's actually the first process that we have started as a first edition, and we shall continue. Thank you very much. Please proceed also for the dinner outside, but do not go without having. Yeah. Shivani, of course, I mean, I keep appreciating. Just now I told my wife about you. Thank you.
Thank you. And with this, the Nepal Sports Summit 2026 comes to an end, ladies and gentlemen. Let the journey begin. Thank you.